What up, world? Established Rich coming right back at you. And today we got to talk about Judge John Roach and how he handled the Karmelo Anthony trial. And I'm going to be honest with you. The more I sit with this case, the more the process bothers me. Not because Austin Metcalf's life doesn't matter. Austin's life absolutely matters. A young man went to a track meet and never made it home. That is the part of this case that should never get lost, no matter how much people argue about the trial. But Karmelo Anthony was also a 17-year-old black teenager facing a murder trial in Texas in a case involving a white victim with the entire country watching from the outside. So if there was ever a case where the court needed to look clean, sound clean, move clean, and be seen clearly by the public, this was it. And that is why Judge Roach's decision to keep the cameras and the live streaming out of the courtroom still don't make sense to me, because transparency is not fair. Transparency is how a courtroom earns trust when the public already has reasons to be suspicious. And in this case, the judge didn't just keep the cameras out, he kept out the public's ability to feel the trial for themselves. That matters, because a trial is not just words on a page. The trial has a temperature. You can read a summary of testimony, but you can't always feel whether a witness sounded confident, shaky, coached, scared, or unsure. You can read that a lawyer objected, but you can't see how the judge responded, how quickly he ruled, or whether one side seemed to be getting more room than the other side. You can read about a verdict, but you can't understand the road to that verdict if everybody else got to walk it and you were told to wait outside. That's why people are asking questions, and a lot of those questions are fair.
You could say it was a trial unlike any other. But it means more coming from the judge who's presided many trials over 20 years. Judge John Roach.
Every time.
What he said when assigned this murder trial, where a jury convicted Karmelo Anthony and sentenced him 35 years. The judge tells us they prepped for this trial 8 months out.
And I know I made people mad, but I'm not here to make them happy either.
The decision to not allow cameras or streaming was questioned by journalists, even the public. The fight for limited public seats turned into lines as early as 2 a.m.
Yes, it was an easy decision, and I'll tell you why. My primary goal in any case is to make sure that the defendant and the prosecution gets a fair trial.
I hear the judge trying to justify his decision. I understand he may think he was protecting the integrity of the courtroom, but that explanation is not strong enough for this case, because we have watched major trials play out on live TV before. We have seen courtrooms handle cameras without the whole process falling apart. We have seen the public disagree with verdicts, but still understand how the evidence landed because they watched it for themselves. That kind of visibility can actually lower the temperature. When people see the process, they may still be angry, but at least they know what they're angry about. When people can't see, they start fighting over shadows. And that's exactly what happened here. The public was left with pieces. A news clip here, a courtroom update there, a lawyer's opinion, a commentator's breakdown, a family statement, but nobody watching from home got to see the full weight of the courtroom. And when the outcome is murder in 35 years, pieces is not enough. That's too much time, too much pain, and too much history to ask people to trust the process they were not even allowed to see. This is why the camera issue is bigger than media access. This is about public confidence. And public confidence does not come from a judge saying, I did everything right. Public confidence comes from a process that can survive being seen.
Judge Roach, if not having cameras, fed speculation and the many social media narratives.
So I had to do a balance between the media's right to know and to be able to report what's going on, because I think that's extraordinarily important. I think it's important that the general public had access to the courtroom and to see what was going on.
One of those narratives was that the judge knew the Metcalf family intimately.
Do you have a personal relationship with the Metcalfs?
I wouldn't know Mr. Metcalf prior to this trial if he walked up to me and said hello.
Judge Roach says he was aware of all the noise outside the courthouse. It was his job to make sure it didn't affect the jury and what happened inside.
Did the jury get it right?
Yeah, they did. You know why? Because they were picked based upon the law. They listened to the facts that happened here in this very courtroom, and they got a verdict.
The judge says Collin County should be the model for handling high-profile cases.
For as long as I follow the law, I sleep well at night. I don't think it's my job to feed social media.
This is where the judge may be missing a deeper point. A judge can believe he was fair and still create a process that looks unfair from the outside. Those two things can exist at the same time. He may have followed the rules as he understands them. He may have believed he was protecting the courtroom from chaos, but in a case loaded with race, grief, fear, self-defense claims, and public distrust, the appearance of fairness matters almost as the fairness itself. That's not about pleasing the internet. That's about understanding the world this case was happening inside of. We are not talking about some small local trial nobody knew about. We are talking about a case where people were already arguing about race, jury selection, media framing, self-defense, and whether Karmelo was being overcharged. So when people hear that there were no black jurors on the final panel, they're going to question it.
I can tell you that before this jury panel was seated, the defense objected to 3 black women being struck by the prosecution. Now, the prosecution contended that it was due to the fact that the women were educators, noting that this incident happened at a school function with young students. The defense then pointed out that those were three of those were 100% of the available black jurors in what's called the strike zone, adding that the state struck all 3. The judge went out and reviewed their questionnaires and came back and said that the defense's challenge to the 3 jurors being dismissed was denied. The judge said the court found that the state had non-racial means to strike the jurors. Now, background, Karmelo Anthony, 17 at the time, is accused of fatally stabbing 17-year-old Austin Metcalf last year at a Frisco ISD track meet. Anthony was reportedly sitting under a tent for a school that he did not attend. Witnesses say the two got into an argument and Anthony stabbed Metcalf in the chest. Metcalf died in his twin brother's arms. Police said that Anthony told them he acted in self-defense. Now, this case has become racially charged, fueled in large part by online speculation, rumors, and misinformation. On Wednesday, attorneys for both sides got an hour and 45 minutes to question the reduced poll of these potential jurors. They were questioned on their views on a variety of topics, including race, how they felt about serving on this case, and if they would hold it against the defendant if he chose not to testify on his own behalf.
When people hear that the judge kept cameras out, they're going to question that too. And when people hear that a 19-year-old got 35 years over a school confrontation, people are going to question that too. And they should have a right to see how that plays out. That does not mean Karmelo should have walked free. That does not mean Austin's death should be minimized. It means the public had a right to want more than secondhand information in a case this big, because this country has a history. And that history does not disappear just because a white judge says, trust me. Black people have seen too many courtrooms where the process looked off, the power structure felt familiar, and the community was told to accept the result without seeing enough of the road that led to it. This is why this hit a nerve. The camera ban didn't create all this distrust, but it gave the distrust a place to live. And that's on the judge.
We ended our interview asking about his brief interactions with the now convicted Karmelo Anthony.
He seems like a nice young man who committed a crime. And he understands today, more than any day before today, the consequences of committing a crime like he did.
This will be Judge Roach's last big murder trial. His service ends in 6 months. But he will preside over 1 or 2 more murder trials before then and apply these same standards.
The parking lot won't be full. The gallery won't be full of people watching the case. But we still have somebody who's died and someone accused of doing the killing.
In Collin County, I'm Jobin Puttinger.
I want to be fair but direct. I am not saying Judge Roach is guilty of everything people are accusing him of. If people are claiming he had personal ties to the victim's family, that has to be proven, not just repeated. If he denied it, then the responsible thing to say is he denied it. But here's the problem. When you close the window, you make every rumor feel possible. This is why transparency matters. A camera does not solve every problem, but it makes it harder for people to believe that everything happened in the dark. And the judge's decision left too much darkness around a case that needed light. This is the part where I think Willie D's criticism connects with a lot of people. People are tired of sanitized coverage. They are tired of reports that tell them the verdict but not the atmosphere. They are tired of being told what happened by institutions they already don't trust. And whether people like that or not, that's the reality. A courtroom does not exist outside of the culture. The law may pretend to be neutral, but the people have lived through enough life to know that power, race, money, location, jury selection, and judicial discretion can change how justice feels. So when a judge makes a decision that removes public view, the burden on him becomes higher. He has to explain it in a way that actually makes sense. And to me, this explanation don't make no sense. Because if the concern was courtroom order, then it's his job to control the courtroom. If the concern was witness safety, protect the witnesses. But to shut the public out entirely in a case this heavy makes the court look less confident, not more. And this is the opposite of what justice should look like. Justice should not look like we handled it, so accept it. Justice should look like we handled it in a way that can stand in the light. This is why I keep coming back to the same conclusion. Judge Roach may have thought he was protecting the trial, but he also protected the trial from public understanding. And public understanding matters when the sentence is 35 years. Now let me say this again so nobody twists my words. Austin Metcalf deserved justice. His family deserved to see the system take his death seriously. Karmelo Anthony deserved consequences for bringing a knife into a situation that took a young man's life. But consequences and transparency are not enemies. A fair process should be able to handle both. And when the public is blocked from watching, the verdict may still be legal, but the process feels less settled. That is where the case is now. The trial is over, but the doubt is still alive. The sentence is in, but the questions did not die with the gavel. And the judge's camera decision is one of the biggest reasons why. Because in a case that needed light, he chose control. In a case where people already feared the system was moving like the system, he made a decision that made those fears louder. This is why the criticism is not just internet noise. Some of it is justified, and some of it comes from real history. Some of it comes from people knowing what happens in a courtroom can look very different when you actually see it with your own eyes. And that is what we were all denied. Not a show, not entertainment, not content. We were denied the ability to watch justice move in real time. And when justice moves behind the wall, people are going to wonder what the wall was protecting. But hey, that's just my opinion. What's yours? Like, comment, subscribe. Establish Rich. I'll be back with another one. Peace.